American muscle. Shiny red paint and chrome wheels. What's on the docket for today? Well, we're starting a new project. Hey guys, welcome to Detroit Muscle. I'm out and about behind the wheel of an old school muscle car, enjoying a beautiful day. This ride I'm in is going to be our next build, and it's going to be one heck of a doozy. A couple of years back, we built an iconic Mopar, a '69 Dodge Charger. It was in pretty good shape, but had a long way to go. After a bit of cutting and welding, we gave it a mile deep, pure black paint job. And then dropped in one serious power plant, a Hellcat crate engine. This project started out as a restoration, then transformed into a timeless Resto Mod. And in the end, well, you know how it goes. You can't keep them all, so it's sold across the auction block.
I think you might call that speechless.
That Charger was tough and I was sad to see it go, but we had our eyes set on another ride, a '69 Camaro. This bow tie got the Resto Mod treatment with upgraded front and rear suspension, overdrive trans, and big brakes. The engine power guys hopped up our old small block with some power adding goodies for a final number of 391 horses. And to complete the package, the interior needed some attention, so we added performance seats with that unmistakable houndstooth. I'm pretty proud of these builds. We've taken iconic muscle cars and transformed them into modern machines. Upgraded the suspension, given them power to compete with today's American muscle. So, since we've tackled a Mopar with that Charger, a Chevy with that Camaro, it only seems fit that we complete the Detroit Big Three trifecta with a Ford Mustang. With our build, we're not going down the path of a standard, chalk mark style restoration, but this car is a perfect canvas for us with our creation. Someone's already been tinkering with this thing and has added some aftermarket air conditioning and been doing some work in the brake department. They've added power disc brakes, but we can do better. So as a conclusion, this old car drives just like you would expect a 1970 car to drive like. Under the hood, that 302's pretty peppy, but doesn't have all that grunt that I like to have. And as far as handling, steering, braking, it's not the best. It's not the worst, still leaves a lot to be desired. And as for traction, well, guess what? I can do a one-wheel peel like nobody's business. But it's a lot cooler whenever we can leave two of them. So, we've got a long road ahead of us, but it's gonna be a sweet ride when we're done. Up next, with a little help from our buddies at EBC, we decide the direction we're gonna go with this iconic piece of Detroit muscle.
With our Mustang back in the shop, it's time for us to figure out a plan of attack. Now, we don't want to beat the car up because, well, it's a really nice ride. But performance technology has come a long way since 1970.
With Mustangs, there are numerous companies out there that offer components to take them to the next level. And with our blue oval, we want this thing to be a complete package. So it's going to be getting some loving from top to bottom, inside and out.
Under here is exactly what you'd expect to find, a small block Ford with all the old technology, like a carburetor, V-belts, and so on. To bring this up to date, we're going to the Coyote. With fuel injection and a supercharger, it will have more than enough power, along with the added benefits and conveniences of late model performance.
To complement that power plant, this thing's gotta have a stick. This old slush box automatic and T-shifter has to go, and you know why. Ripping through the gears and adding that third pedal is where it's at. Now we're also going to have to address the upholstery in this thing. The seat that I'm in feels kind of like a glorified park bench. Adding some bolsters here in the seats, well, that would go a long way, whether we decide to take this thing on the track or even stretch it out on the highway.
Another department in need of some major attention is the suspension. Now, we aren't talking about just putting on bigger sway bars and stiffer bushings. This old girl's getting some work done. I'm talking about aluminum frame front, quadrillink rear, and coilovers on every corner, yeah, buddy.
Now, with the power that we're going to be making up under the hood and that trick suspension, obvious, we're going to have to upgrade the brakes. So we're teaming up with EBC to complete the package on our Resto Mod. A couple of years back, we got the opportunity to visit jolly old England. And what we discovered is that those chaps from across the pond are car-loving enthusiasts just like us here in the United States. They do love their exotics though, Lambos, Ferraris, and even an odd one in the bunch. But we were surprised to see, so far from home, some iconic Detroit muscle. But it's not just the cars that we have in common with these Englishmen. It's the desire to go fast. And what better company to be in the center of it all than EBC Brakes? Located here in the US and in Northampton, England, EBC Brakes produces a vast array of brake pads and rotors. With over 5,000 products, they have a solution for every moving vehicle. And I mean everything. Cars, trucks, SUVs, military vehicles, trains, and even brakes for wind turbines. The application for these brake pads are well developed. You've seen us talk about green stuff, yellow stuff, and red stuff brake pads with rotors to match. A lot of R&D goes into the formulas and materials and how they're used in braking application. That research and development takes place in their Center of Excellence in Northampton, England. With full chemistry, friction development, and testing facilities, EBC engineers are tasked with researching and testing new ingredients and production methods to make rotors and pads more consistent and a higher quality. Every batch of brake pads and rotors made at the EBC factories in England and here in the US goes through rigorous testings to ensure a perfect product leaves their factory. We've got our buddy James on the line. Big man, how you doing?
Hey Tommy, good to see you over there. How you doing? Unfortunately, I can't be with you today in person, but I'm over here 3,000 or 4,000 miles away in Northampton, England, and I'm currently still in our Centre of Excellence.
Well, I know with our car, we're setting the bar pretty high, and I'm sure you guys have exactly what we need.
Yeah, well, the first thing we're going to do for you is actually, I've just picked this one up from next door. It's our new 6-piston caliper. This is the back half of it, as you can see, made in the UK. It's all made here in Northampton, UK. And they're hot off the press, and we're going to send you some of the first ones available.
Now, I know that's just part of the goodies that you guys have, right?
Exactly, yeah. The other thing is we've got you've seen them before, it's a heavy one, this one. It's our fully floating brake rotor. It's got a aluminum center, which is machined about 15 yards away from me next door, all laser etched. It's a high carbon cast iron outer, and it's, as I said, it's fully floating, so any heat, it all moves about together. It's a fantastic product. We sell thousands of these around the globe already, and it's going to be brilliant for that car. You're going to have some amazing stopping power.
Now, I know that's 2 of the parts. What about some brake pads?
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to give you some blue stuff pads, because this car is going to be used a little bit on track, I believe, and it's going to have some sort of fast road use. We'll also double up and we'll give you a spare set of brake pads. We've got our new compounds RP1 and RPX for full track use. So we're gonna give you a couple of sets of those so we can try them on track. Hopefully I'll get to have a go in the car sometime.
James, you're welcome here anytime, and after you showing off, we've got a couple things we want to show you. Now we're gonna have to take a quick break. Y'all don't run off. You're gonna like this, man.
I can't wait, Tommy, can't wait.
What's behind curtain number 1? We reveal our design options for James next on Detroit Muscle. Guys, James, welcome back. We're here in what we consider our center of excellence, the PowerNation shop. Now up here on the wall, I have several screens and it's got renderings of potentially what this Mustang can look like. And we've been dying to show you these to let you check them out.
I'm really excited to see them, Tommy. Let's go.
Behind door number 1 is this beauty. What do you think?
Looking good. The color's amazing. Nice subtle decals. I like the back in black. Sounds like an AC/DC album, but it looks amazing. Chrome wheels, super cool.
Yeah, the treatment that we gave it was, pretty subtle. Didn't want to get too crazy going right out of the box. And with this type of car, it's kind of hard to mess them up. They're just beautiful as themselves.
It makes you wonder why they don't make cars that shape these days. They look so good.
Well, we've got 2 more options to check out. Let me show you them. What do you think about that one?
That's brilliant, Tommy. Love it. Like you say, it's a little bit more aggressive looking, particularly from the front end there. Light, nice subtle decals again. It reminds me of a 1970s muscle car. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the stripes coming down the side of it is similar to what a boss car would have on it. And that's a timeless design, complements that car really well.
Really nice, love it.
Now let me show you door number 3. Here's the third one. What do you think?
Wow, another great one. Again, a completely different personality. Loving the black roof. We love the alloys over here. They look amazing. Again, it looks like a different car. All 3 look like different cars, but they all look great.
This one gets the full black treatment across the top and the tail panel. It's a little bit more subtle, but still an aggressive looking car. I like it.
It's a good looking ride.
All 3 are somewhat different, but I have to say number 2 is my favorite.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Tommy. I like the aggressive look, and if it's gonna pump out some serious BHP, it needs to be a little bit aggressive.
Now, I'm really excited of putting this car together. It's gonna be a killer ride whenever we're done, just like that new model we built with you guys just a while back.
Exactly. What's gonna happen to this car then, Tommy?
Well, that's kind of your decision, I believe.
Well, to be honest, we've got to give it away again, haven't we? We've got to do some sort of competition and give it away to someone.
Well, I know I'd be sure proud to have this thing sitting in my driveway.
So would I. To be fair, we need to give it to one of your viewers. They would appreciate it just as much as we would, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to get started. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to see the finished car, Tommy, but it's 6 p.m. here now and we're off to the pub. See you soon.
Enter to win the EBC Mustang online at PowerNationTV.com.
Coming up,
What you think?
It's above my pay grade.
Mine too.
we check out some of the goodies that will transform this old Mustang.
After giving James from EBC Brakes the lowdown on this Mustang and picking an aggressive design that had to live up to the muscle we'll be pumping into this pony car, Daniel and I decided to take a little peek into the progress on our Coyote being built by our buddies in Engine Power. See where they're at.
Sup, fellas?
Coming down here to hang out for a minute.
I like it.
Checking on progress.
What you think?
It's above my pay grade.
Mine too. Now this one, this is a fun one. So far, so good. All the parts are going together nice, so we got a lot of nice parts for it, and you're gonna have a nice bullet.
Looks like it's missing this oven-looking thing. That we
Yeah,
set
well,
up
if it's a
here.
rattlesnake, it'd bite Daniel right now. So, and it's red, you know, by happenstance and luck. But 3-liter Whipple, 5-liter engine, so it's gonna make some power.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
Now we're going to pulley it down to make the least amount of boost we can, but you can only go so much, right? So we're gonna keep it. I know you have a power goal.
Yeah, we want to keep it, you know, kind of, user-friendly in a way, and I'm going to have to ride beside him, and I don't trust his driving. So we got to keep it a little lower than normal.
Okay, well, we're either going to have to put a brick under the pedal. Actually, we can make it make, you know, whatever we want. The nice part about having a good amount of control over the EFI system, we can keep it calmed down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But a lot of nice parts in this, and it's got, you know, lockouts on the cam, so if we want to degree the cams wherever we want, no hydraulic, you know, varying of that, we can actually just treat it like a real race engine and put everything where we want. So.
And just here before long, this thing's going to be all buttoned up and in there on the dyno, right?
Yes, yes. Obviously, you see where we are on it. Supercharger goes on. We have a couple other doodads that have to go on it, but it gets put on the pump, and we're going to have some fun with it.
Well, I'm going to get out of here. Daniel, I got to get him back to work so you can get back to work.
We're close. Thanks for stopping down.
Yeah,
and next time you
buddy.
see it, it's going to be in there making some noise. So.
All righty.
That's good.
That gnarly Coyote that Engine Power is building for us is definitely going to move this thing up the food chain. Earlier, we mentioned to you guys about some trick parts that's going to be going under our old ride. And by the looks of these goodies stretched out in the floor, well, it's easy to see that our EBC Mustang is going to be one heck of a ride.
To build a solid foundation, we're going to be using Detroit Speed suspension that we ordered from Summit Racing. Now, this setup will drastically improve the ride and handling of our old school muscle. This kit includes a high-strength cast aluminum cradle, tubular upper and lower control arms, rack and pinion steering, quadrelink rear suspension, and coilovers all the way around, making this thing drive like a dream.
Now let's talk about the transmission. From the beginning, this thing had to have a stick in it. American Powertrain had the answer for us with the all-new TKX from Tremec. This trans has everything you could ask for in a 5-speed. A strong design that is rated to handle 600 pound-feet of torque, a streamlined and rounded case to fit in tight spaces so that you don't have to modify your trans tunnel for the install. Multiple gear ratios and 3 shifter locations are just naming a few of the benefits. I can't wait to be behind the wheel running through the gears.
Yeah, buddy, me too. Now, this build is going to take a good bit of time to complete, so that means it's going to have to be in the shop for a while. And using a high-quality car cover like this form-fit indoor custom car cover from Covercraft has several benefits. It's made from a highly breathable material that will not trap heat or vapor under the cover. And inside is a fleece finish that will swaddle your pride and joy.
This thing fits pretty nice.
Yeah, it sure does.
Now, if you guys would like to know more about our EBC Mustang or any of our other builds, go to PowerNationTV.com and check out our project pages.
That's right, you can see current build status, before and after pics, links to parts we've used, and all the episodes right there on one page.
You ready to dive into this thing?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to drive it.
You're gonna have to ride in the passenger seat.
I ain't riding, I'm driving.
You don't want to miss out on the chance to win this piece of American muscle when we're done with it. With a tough new design, top-of-the-line suspension, a supercharged Coyote with powertrain to match, you'd be proud to have this in your driveway. Remember, PowerNationTV.com. Today on Detroit Muscle, we ditched the engine in our EBC giveaway car and make a huge incision to make room for fancy new suspension. Hey guys, welcome to the shop. From where you're sitting, you've got the view of some sweet American muscle. Now we're feeling a bit ambitious today, and we have some big plans for our EBC Mustang that we're planning to give away to one of you guys. And like the old saying goes, sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better. That's the case on our old Stang here. It's time for us to disassemble this piece of Detroit muscle. It's like changing your new baby boy. All right, we'll let your mama clean you up.
On these old cars, you'll find a lot of what we'll call DIY improvements.
One fancy homemade bracket. It's got plenty of holes for adjustability
That's right.
and versatility. You know, I think taking these headers off sucks, but I bet it sucks even worse putting them on.
Some of these parts we won't be reusing and will be inventory for the scrap bin. However, some of these things do have some worth to them, enough to fetch a few beers at the end of the day. Go ahead.
Now we're using a forklift just because we have one. A cherry picker will do the same thing, but it requires a lot more pumping.
It's pouring fluid. Right forward. The trans made a mess, as they usually do. Other than that, it came out without a hitch.
You didn't get any forward on you, did you?
I got a little bit on me, but it'll be all right. We're almost done now.
Well, we're partially there, aren't we?
Now all we got to do is finish taking the rest of it apart.
Well, I'm gonna put away your collection of gold coins over here.
You never know what you're going to need, so always come prepared.
Well, if I put these away, I'm gonna let you clean up that crime scene down there. What do you say?
Yeah. Well,
I'll
I am
help
the
you with it.
dirtiest of the two of us. I ain't figured that one out yet either.
Well, with age comes wisdom. I don't know, I'm out of loss. I don't have anywhere. I don't know where to go.
Well,
I'm just gonna go put these up.
You got plenty of wisdom.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, we finally got the mess cleaned up, and now it's time to snatch this front suspension out from under it.
For you guys sitting on the couch wondering why we're taking apart a perfectly good car, well, it's because we're making room for innovation. And the plans we have for this car doesn't include old school technology.
It's a serious sway bar right there,
That's
buddy.
right. That's for high-speed cornering. Okay guys, now that we got the front suspension completely removed and the engine and transmission sitting in the floor, we've got to do the same thing out back by removing all the rear suspension. First thing we're going to do is jump on our shocks.
Zipping out these shocks will open up some room for us, but getting rid of this old exhaust gives us even more.
Heck yeah. Yeah, buddy.
What do you think the chances are that these shackles are going to slide right out of the eyelets?
Is slim an option?
I think you're probably accurate.
That's what I was thinking. These were trouble, but with a little muscle and a handy pry bar, these leaf spring hangers slit loose from their home.
Yes, sir. Come on up with it. That's not nearly as heavy as I thought it was going to be.
Well, you'd wrestled it like it was.
Well, I have to say, apparently you've been doing some pretty good work too. This old fella here's broke a sweat.
That's right.
Now we still got more to do. We got to get that interior out. What do you say, take a break for a minute?
I think we need to.
All right, cool. I'll let you buy the first round of soft drinks.
All right. How about a cheeseburger? Up next, cutting for days.
And burning wire for hours on end.
A challenging task, but it'll be worth it.
Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Now we've got quite a bit of Mustang laying here in the floor. Some of it is what I'm gonna call, used to be, with all the old parts here. The other is the gonna be. Now to do the upgrade that we're planning to do, that's the reason we stripped this thing down. Motor, transmission, rear suspension, front suspension, and even the interior. Because we're gonna have to cut in on this whole thing. But it's all good because when we're all said and done, this thing is gonna be above and beyond. And to help with that, well, I brought in a skilled surgeon. Well, Matt, you've been studying the backside of this carcass, if you will, of a Mustang. You got your plan of attack together?
We got a lot of cutting we gotta do on this thing. We gotta get these wheel tubs out of the way, carve out a section of the floor, and we're gonna replace section of the frame rail one side at a time.
That's right, all in preparation for those big tires that's going up under there. Well, you're gonna have to make some marks, I assume, throw a few sparks. I know we're gonna have to drill out quite a few spot welds. I can go grab a tool for that if you wanna go ahead and get busy.
You got it.
Let me get out of your way. Matt's a friend of ours, and the last time we were catching up, he said, man, if you need anything, just holler. So we took him up on his offer. On a big task like this, it's nice to have an extra set of hands to help with the job.
And this is a big job. There are plenty of incisions that need to be carefully laid out, with consideration for each step that follows. Cut after cut, Matt makes progress on prepping the rear end for the new tubs. And the frame rail is no exception. Those bump stops, they have to go.
The factory frame rail in our Mustang runs along the inner wheel tub and tapers toward the outside of the car, giving us more wheel clearance in the front than there is in the rear. The new frame rail section from Detroit Speed fixes that issue by straightening out the frame rail, giving us more wheel clearance in the rear. Now to install this, we have to remove a section of the factory frame rail. To do that, we have to trim away some more sheet metal, however it's spot welded to the old frame. Now there's a number of ways to remove these old spot welds. One method is to use a wide disc grinder like this one. It's going to make some pretty quick work of grinding out your weld to separate your two panels, but it's going to leave your surface pretty rough if you're going to re-weld those holes back up. And with that being said, it's not going to work for us. We're going to use a spot weld cutter. It's kind of like a mini hole saw. It cuts around the spot weld, leaving a nice clean hole to weld our trunk floor to our new frame rail. Taking the tortoise approach is the best method for this. You definitely don't want to cut too deep, especially if you're going to be reusing your inner panel.
Once the upper trunk pan is detached from the rail, it's time for more cutting. Pay attention to what you're cutting here. Think about it. You're slicing into the main structure of the car. You know that old saying, measure twice, cut once. Well, Matt's been making some really good progress doing the upgrade here on the tail end of our Mustang. Now, doing this conversion has a whole lot going for it. One of them is, it's obvious that you guys can tell that we're going to be able to fit a significantly wider tire under the tail end of our Mustang. And with the power output that we're looking to make, that's going to help get all that power to the ground. The other one is we're converting from that old school leaf spring setup to now a coilover and 4-link. Now that alone is going to make this car ride and drive daylight and dark difference. But there's a few things if you're looking to do this type of conversion that you need to consider. One of them is your skill set. We had to cut into the frame rail on this car, and that alone scares people to death. And two is the time to do this type of thing. Now this alone can take you 40+ hours to do it. This isn't really a job that you can take and tear the car down on a Friday night and be back driving this thing to work Monday morning. So just make sure you do your research before you make your decision.
The good thing about having one side done is that you're halfway there. So Matt just repeated the process on the passenger side.
So that means we have to section the frame on this side as well. and burn it in. Man, yeah, Matt, you have made some pretty good progress, and man, I want to say thank you for all your hard work.
Hey, I know how busy you guys are here. Anything I can do to help out. I'd love to stick around and help with the Quadrilink kit, but I gotta head back home. Think you can take it from here?
Oh yeah, man, I can handle this. Now you guys don't run off, we still got more to do, and I have to say, I can't wait to see this thing when it's done. Huge tire now.
Oh yeah, easily 2-3 more inches out of this.
We're back to work prepping on our EBC Mustang for the trick suspension kit we got from Summit Racing. Tommy's had to do quite a bit of whittling and trimming to make room for that upgraded back end. We've had to burn a good bit of wire installing all the bracketry and reinforcements, making way for this superior suspension.
We went ahead and sprayed the underside of our Mustang with some undercoating. This cuts down on road noise and prevents rust. The next thing we need to do is install our links and sway bar. This is pretty much straightforward and just nut and bolt action. With some grade 8 hardware, we can attach our upper and lower links. With a few more pieces, we can cinch down the rear sway bar.
While Tommy's over there installing those rear control arms, I'm going to start putting our coilover assemblies together. Now these came with a rear suspension kit. They're JRI double adjustable shocks that have been tuned to Detroit Speed specifications, and they use Torrington bearings, which allow for easy adjustment during preloading. Now the nice thing about these is they don't use any special tools for assembly. They don't even use snap ring pliers. All they have is a stainless steel retaining ring that can be removed by hand. But before we go any further, I just wanted to show you a really cool feature of these shocks and the way they're designed. With this ring removed, the upper spring seat comes off. When we put it all back together, the spring seat and the retaining ring, you'll notice there's an interference fit. Believe it or not, that little old bitty ring and 3 of his buddies are all that's holding the car up. Boy, that's some engineering right there. Well, enough of the small talk. I gotta get these springs on before cousin over there fires me. Now for pre-assembly, the spanner and the jam nut need to be run all the way to the bottom of the body. Then we can get to greasing the Torrington bearing. Detroit Speed recommends using an extreme pressure grease on each bearing and thrust washer. When you go to slip these bearings over the body, be sure and have all your excess grease wiped off, because the less mess, the better. And with the upper spring seats in place, simply flip over the shock and cinch down the adjustment nut to hold everything in place. Voila.
Man, look at that accomplishment.
I know, look good, don't they?
With a couple more bolts, we can hang our coilovers and cinch them down. Then we'll slide in our housing, line everything up, and slide in a few more bolts. A couple of these may take a little wrestling to get them in there, but nothing a tool of persuasion can't handle. Before we put this chunk in, I'm gonna let you do the honors of leaving these people a little, note, if you will. Maybe some sweet nothings or something.
I think I can handle that.
So what'd you write?
Lifters are losers, making reference to lifting off that skinny pedal too early in the race. When you lift too soon, you lose every time. We're getting ready to install the rear differential on our Mustang here, and there's a couple of things we need to pay attention to before we do so. These pumpkin style rear ends, like our Ford 9-inch here, all have a common problem. They leak. There's a couple of ways to address that, whether it be with a gasket, sealant, or both. Now let me show you the problem. These lower studs are in what I like to call the reservoir of the differential, meaning they are submerged in oil when the car is parked. I do 2 things for a preventative strategy. First, I like to apply a small amount of sealant to the backside of all of the studs to lower the chances of leaks. Also, with a quality gasket, I like to add more sealant to the threads for good insurance. With that leak prevention in place, we can add the chunk and cinch down the bolts. For the rear axle seal, I like to go the extra mile here as well. This may seem a little excessive, but I've seen these things leak before. So a small amount around the flange will do the trick. Get in there, you turkey. All right. Well, that about tops off our upgrades to the tail end of our car here, and I hope some of those tips we talked about earlier will help keep those greasy spots out of your floor.
We've made some really good progress for today, just getting the suspension finished here on the back side. We still got a long row to hoe, if you will, with the front suspension, engine and tranny, and so on. But I'm gonna call it. I've had my fill for the day, and I'm ready to go to the house.
Yeah, me too. I think it's time to go get a milkshake.
If you like what you saw on today's show or have any questions, you should go to PowerNationTV.com and check out our project pages. There you will find current build status, before and after pics, lists to the parts used, and links to all the shows. Y'all have a good one. Today on Detroit Muscle, super sweet suspension and some gnarly brakes from EBC. Plus, we get the 411 on Mustang Resto Mods, coming up on Detroit Muscle.
Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're about halfway through our EBC Mustang giveaway project, and today we've got a table full of Go Fast goodies that'll help this old hot rod handle like an Indy car, and some massive brakes that'll make it whoa almost as fast as it goes.
With our Mustang, we have some big plans. So the engine, trans, all the worn and squeaky suspension, and the dated interior are getting upgrades. We want this thing to be a complete package, so it's getting the treatment. A 4-link rear, modern front suspension, and coilovers all the way around. For a power plant, a hopped-up Coyote is a must, coupled with a 5-speed manual gearbox to multiply the fun factor. Plus, we'll install bigger brakes to handle all that horsepower, and add some fresh, snazzy interior to complete the package. Today we're feeling a bit ambitious. We're going to be installing all of our new front suspension that we picked up from Summit Racing. It's made by Detroit Speed, and it's going to make that old Mustang handle like it's on rails. So with our goal, I brought in a friend of mine. Josh, I hope you're ready to get dirty, man.
Definitely ready to get dirty today with this Mustang. We got to remove these shock towers, along with a couple of different components here in the sheet metal. But to access the sheet metal and the shock towers, we got to remove the front fenders, along with a couple of different components in the front end. I'm going to be cutting, grinding, and welding, and I'm going to have a good old time with the Mustang.
Good old time. Well, I guess let's get these things off so you can start the square dance.
Let's get to it.
We're planning on reusing this stuff so it won't be hitting the trash pile. In fact, we're taking special care removing these parts. We have a good bit of work ahead of us.
Got it, bud? Got it.
And we don't want to pile on more. And we definitely don't have plans on repainting anything.
Thank you, sir.
So taking the time to remove these pieces carefully is worth its weight in gold. And hey, if you want to make your life easier, there's nothing wrong with bagging and tagging your hardware. There's nothing worse than crawling around on your hands and knees looking for that one elusive bolt. Holy cow. Man, this sucks. I found where some tin worms been chewing on this Mustang. Yours that bad over there?
Never heard that reference, but it definitely looks like there's some gaping holes in our frame rail on this side as well. Looks like we got a little bit more work on our hands than we were planning on.
Yeah, ain't nothing we can't handle. Get them out of the way, make that repair a lot easier, so we might as well throw some more sparks.
You got it. Now, before we can get cutting on our Mustang, we got a couple of tools of mass destruction here. Got a few grinders, as well as an air hammer, spot weld cutter, and a manual hammer for that good old persuasion. But those of you at home may be wondering why I got a couple of different grinders here. The bigger one is for the thicker material and the easy places to get to. The smaller one is for the thinner material and the harder places to get to. Now with our Mustang, I feel like I'm going to be running into both. But a lot of these tools here are known to sling shrapnel everywhere, and to protect us from that shrapnel, as well as hearing, got some earplugs and some safety glasses.
ripping through dozens of spot welds, a little pile driving, and throwing some shooting stars, these shock towers come out lickety-split.
Man, that's a lot of rust. When we found this rust in our Mustang, we really weren't surprised. And unfortunately, it's a common issue with these classic cars. This would practically be impossible to fix with the shock tower in the way, but since it's gone, we'll patch this section in no time. There are a couple of different ways we can fix the rust on our frame rail. We can replace the entire rail, but that's just going to cost us more time and more money. But since the damage is isolated only into a small portion of the rail, we're going to go ahead and patch it. Now, seeing that the rail is structural, it's thicker, roughly 14 gauge, and a good rule of thumb when making a repair like this is to match the base material. With a few measurements, we can make our marks. And like in grade school, follow the lines. A little cleanup on the belt sander, a 90 on the brake, and we're ready to fit our patch piece.
With old Blue, we can glue these pieces together. And then clean them up to make a seamless repair. Well, Josh, bud, I don't know if I need to compliment your welding skills or the grinding skills, but either way, that's pretty impressive.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. I knew it was nothing I couldn't handle. It was a great opportunity letting me play with all your shiny tools in the shop. And hey, with all this rust out, you can move forward with all the shiny suspension parts, and I think you're gonna have a good time.
Oh, for sure. Well, I guess that's time, or my cue, to get started. Coming up, John Crayman from Mecum Auctions gives us the 411 on Mustang Resto Mods. Next on Detroit Muscle. Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're making some really good progress with the install on the upgraded front suspension going under our Mustang. We've also had John Crayman, a good friend of ours of the shop, stop in. What brings you to town?
Tommy, I'm never going to pass up a chance to stop by the shop and see what you got going on.
Well, what we have here is a 1970 Mustang that we're building with EBC, and we're going to be giving this thing away.
Looks like you're headed towards a full-blown Resto Mod treatment. I'm really glad to see that, because this is definitely a great way to combine vintage components with those classic Mustang lines.
Oh yeah, we're going with some pretty gnarly power up under the hood, late model Coyote. It's going to get a 5-speed, you know, with an extra pedal in the floor. That always makes things a whole lot more fun. Plus this trick suspension, it's going to be a killer ride.
You know, dating all the way back to 1964, the Mustang has been one of the it cars for Americans in particular, and it's really gratifying to see that even the vintage rides, this one from 1970, are getting attention from a brand new market, those that really enjoy blending old with new.
Yeah, they are definitely popular. And saying popular, didn't you guys sell, let's call it a popular car a while back?
Well, the Bullet Mustang sale got so much attention. It sold actually for $3.74 million, an all-time high mark, of course, for a Ford Mustang. And it's just amazing the staying power that the Ford Mustang brand has as it transitions through different generations.
Now, I have to ask, what did it feel like in the room, like play by play? I need to know.
Indescribable. We had high expectations for a big dollar number. We knew it was going to bring in the millions. We just didn't know how many. But the place was packed like we never saw it before. There was a indescribable excitement and energy in the room that paid off with a huge sale. It was definitely one of our best moments ever.
Oh, it had to be. It would have been killer just to be there, for sure.
You know, speaking of excitement, you guys had a certain 1969 Dodge Charger Resto Mod that had its own level of excitement at Mecum.
He's right. Our pride and joy on that prestigious stage, under those shimmering lights, was a sight to see. The energy in the room was kind of overwhelming. And with the slam of the gavel, our car fetched 6 figures, making us feel proud of our creation. and confirmed the hours spent for perfection didn't go unnoticed. That car is probably my most favorite that I've ever had anything to do with. And with this car, I bet it's going to be just as much fun, but we're not looking to sell it. We're actually going to give it away. Let me show you some of the goodies that's going in it.
Sounds good.
First thing that I want to show you is this jewel. It's a brand new TKX from American Powertrain. It's 5 speeds of fun. And I'm curious, are you a fan of ripping through the gears?
I don't think there's any doubt that any car guy, old school car guy, prefers a good old-fashioned 3-pedal traditional manual transmission. Today's automatics are great, don't get me wrong, but this is where it's at for me.
Oh yeah? And are manual shift cars, let's call them more sought after even so, in the muscle car?
Yeah, there's no doubt in the collector car world, the current trend is for any vehicle that was originally produced with a manual transmission to be in very high demand right now. Something about it, that driving engagement and fun to drive, that's what it's all about.
Well, this thing coupled with that, it's definitely gonna have a lot of fun.
Well, look what we have here. Looks like a Coyote 5-liter Ford power plant, but something special on the top of it.
Oh yeah, that power adder definitely gets the job done. It makes plenty of power, it's got reliability, and whenever you pop the hood, it's a piece of candy under there.
Yeah, since 2011, the Coyote has been really the go-to engine in retrofitting Ford products. Keeping it all in the family is a good thing.
Well, John, with what you've seen, how are we doing?
Man, supercharged Coyote 5-liter, 5-speed manual transmission, lots of suspension updates, big EBC brakes to slow it all down, that 70 classic Mustang fastback body style. You nailed it, man.
Well, that means a lot coming from you, and I have to say I can't wait to be finished with this thing sitting behind the wheel, and I can't wait for the opportunity to see the person's face, you know, the smile they're going to have after winning it.
Man, I wish that was me. I wonder if I got a chance to get in on this thing.
Well, you can always enter, you know, you never know.
I wonder if they would let me win this thing. Interesting.
Up next, we hang this sweet suspension, and boy, does it look awesome. Plus, we get our swerve on to complete the package. While you were gone, we've been chipping away at our Mustang, punching a few holes here and there, a little grinding, a little cutting, a few pieces of hardware. Oh, and we had to stitch up a few things too. Yeah, I know this may look like a lot of work, and it is, but great things usually take some effort. Well, we're finally done whittling and welding on the nose end of our Mustang, and it's time for us to start bolting in some of our hard parts. Now, we're still kind of in the mock-up stage because later down the road, I'm going to pretty up under the hood on those inner fenders and so on. So I also swapped out some of our hardware to just standard nuts because the kit comes with some mechanical locking nuts, and there's no need to waste those putting this thing together right now. We're going to start off by sliding in our lower control arm and bump stop. You can tell how well this is engineered by how quickly and easily everything slides into place. Heck, I didn't even break a sweat. With our bushings installed, we can slide in our splined hollow tube sway bar. Now, it doesn't matter if you're doing a trick suspension like this one or just kind of a restoration on your car. You can upgrade the sway bar, and it really doesn't take all that much, but it drastically improves the way the car will ride, handle, and steer. It has the ball and socket ends similar to what you would find on a late model muscle car. And it's easy to see, it's better than those old school setups with that extra long bolt and all those rubber isolators. It's time for us to install our rack. Now, normally to slap this thing under there, it takes a couple of bolts, and then you just attach each tie rod to your spindle. Now this procedure that I'm wanting to do before I put it in there is called centering the rack. If you don't do this, well, you may find that when you turn to the left or right, it may go about a quarter of the way, and then when you turn to the other side, well, it hyperextends. Centering this thing is super simple to do and will prevent that. To get started, you want to rotate the input shaft till it stops all the way in one direction and either side is fine. Sometimes you can turn these by hand, but depending on how tight the rack is set up, well, you may have to use a wrench. I prefer to use an adjustable as opposed to a locking because that lowers the risk of damaging the grooves or your splines. Let's see where we're at. All right, once you hit the stop, make a mark on the housing, then onto the shaft. Spin this thing back the opposite way. Count your revolutions. 2 right here. Now take your mark that was on the shaft, put that on the housing. Now depending on how many revolutions you went, we'd only made 2, so we're going to go back half of those, which is 1, and then take your mark on the shaft and put it in between your 2 marks on the housing. That should do it. The thing's centered up. Now we just need to slide this thing into place. Snug her down. And connect the tie rod ends. Man, all I gotta say is, job well done. This is only a drop in the bucket for the goodies that's going in this ride. And don't forget, one of you guys will be the proud new owner. Coming up, they're big, they're beautiful. We're talking about brakes here, folks. This Mustang giveaway will be one of the first to have a set of these. Yeah, no kidding. Now we've been making some really good progress on our Mustang, and now it's time for us to move on toward the brakes. We've unboxed our goodies, and James, this is one impressive kit.
Thanks, Tommy. Yeah, we got them all ready in time for you guys and air freighted them over. And I hope you like them. I hope you like the experience of just opening the box.
Oh man, the packaging was impressive, and then you get the product out and it's really impressive. So I can't wait to get these things on. Now, I know this isn't just some standard run-of-the-mill setup, is it?
No, that's right. So you see the rotors right in front of you there, Tommy. So they are fully floating cast iron rotors with aluminum hubs, which are all milled just about 10 yards from me next door here. They're hard anodized and then laser etched, and then very carefully assembled and checked again for balance and any run out. So they're absolutely perfect coming out of the factory here.
Oh man, they look really close to perfection. That's no lie at all. Now I know there's a lot more that goes on to the brakes, like the calipers that we've got. We've got a 6-piston and a 4-piston for the rear.
That's right, yeah. So the 4-piston there for the rear, they've been out for a little while. We've been selling tons of those recently. That's called our Apollo 4-pot caliper. That's all cast aluminum, and then all stainless steel hardware goes into it. It's all pressure tested on site. They've gone through many dyno tests. They've gone through heat tests and even freezer tests to get to the stage where they are for selling to the consumer there. And the 6 pots on the other side, they're in fact a brand new product from us. So those 2 there are actually the first ones to go on a vehicle anywhere in the world. They've, of course, don't worry, they've all been dyno tested and all the other tests gone through. And we're just putting them onto other test vehicles over here right now as we speak. So they'll be released to the marketplace in a couple of months' time. But again, it's a massive step up from the 4-pot. And I personally think they look fantastic.
Oh man, they're a good-looking caliper and huge in size, which normally means massive brakes.
Means you're going to stop well.
That's right. That's right. And sitting behind those are your iconic yellow brake pads.
Yeah, we find yellow brake pads are perfect for fast street use. I mean, they've got a lovely progressive feel to them. The more you push, the more you get. They're not snatchy at all. And the other advantage of the yellow as well, of course, because they're an organic material base, they do produce some brake dust, but literally you could just wipe clean your alloy wheels with a soft cloth, and they're perfect again.
Well, James, it's time for me to get back after it, and man, you're gonna have to come see us here before long.
I can't wait to come and see you guys and see all those brakes fitted on that amazing car.
Well, we'll talk to you shortly.
Cheers, Tommy.
See you,
bye-bye,
buddy.
guys.
If you guys have been following along with our build, you know that we haven't been holding anything back. And EBC Brakes is helping us continue down that path. These brakes are ultra high-end components that have been developed for EBC's racing line. Their products have been engineered from extensive R&D, utilizing high-performance alloys and aerospace materials. With their all-new 6-piston caliper, complemented with their yellow stuff brake pads, you could say with this kit, EBC has just set the bar for high-performance brakes. You know, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and torque all your suspension and brake hardware to the recommended specs, even whenever you're at a pre-assembly mode like we are, because that helps to ensure everything is where it needs to be, and it helps to reduce fit issues later down the road. And this is a process you want to do with precision. Matco offers several torque wrenches to help you accomplish the task at hand, like this 1/2-inch drive fixed torque wrench. It has a range from 50 to 250 foot-pounds, a dual scale in standard and metric readings, and a retractable locking ring to ensure accurate settings. Overall, today has been a great day. We've got quite a bit accomplished, and it was practically Christmas unpacking these massive EBC brakes. Building this car has been a true joy. And just think, one of you lucky guys, before long, will be able to take this project home. To sign up to win, go to PowerNationTV.com. And while you're there, you can check out our project pages, where you can keep up with this build and check out all our episodes. Today, we're gonna need a big metric shoehorn to mount our supercharged Coyote into this EBC Mustang. And while we're at it, this ground pounder's gonna get a gear-grabbing 5-speed.
Have mercy.
Hey guys, welcome to Detroit Muscle. Today's subject matter is a popular one. Some people love it, the purists seem to cringe, and if you're a throttle-loving gearhead, it's probably right up your alley. What I'm referring to is a Coyote swap. It has a lot of benefits, but not all of them come so easy. There's quite a bit that goes into this conversion, if you're considering it. First off, let's talk about the car that you're planning to shoehorn one of those late model mills into. If you have something rare, like a Shelby 428 car, or even a K-code, it's probably not a good idea. Those are high-dollar cars, and you would really be defacing the holy grail of Mustangs with this type of swap. But if you have something kind of like what we started with, a 6-cylinder or a standard old small block car, I'm gonna say let those sparks fly. Because they made thousands of these things, and increasing a car's desirability, well, that usually means more money, making it more sought after. Because you know the old saying, something's only worth what someone else is willing to pay you for it. So you may be asking, what's the big deal with the Coyote? What makes them so good? For one thing, other than reliability, is they make good power straight out of the box, from about 350 up to the mid 400s in stock form. And all of this is done running pump gas. Whenever you try to make that kind of power with an old school engine, you know, normally they're a bit more temperamental. It requires higher octane fuel and the drivability normally goes down. Another thing that is great about one of these engines is the ease of making big power. If you bolt on a power adder like a supercharger, it can fetch some serious numbers, and I'm talking about hundreds of more. To have an engine with a power output in the 700 range doesn't take much work at all. Okay, so if you like those numbers and you're into modern technology, here's where things can get a bit troublesome. First off, this isn't a bolt-in swap. The engine mounts are completely different, and stock suspension doesn't play well with that new engine. Also, with that Coyote being so wide, well, the factory shock towers have to be reduced in size or completely removed just for it to drop into the hole. There are several companies that offer kits to help with the conversion, but be prepared for some work because it takes several hours and a lot of cutting and welding for proper installation. Another thing that you're going to have to tackle is the brakes. Now, normally sitting back over here is a big round booster, and that interferes with the engine, so you're going to have to remove it. Now, you could mount up a master cylinder straight to the firewall and run manual brakes, but most people prefer power assist. There is the option for Hydro Boost, and it's fed by a power steering pump mounted on the engine, and that itself is an issue. From the factory, the Ford Coyote doesn't have a hydraulic pump in the accessory drive, so that means you're going to have to mount one. We're going to be running a power rack under our car, so a pump is in our near future. This is only a few of the obstacles that you're going to have to overcome if you're looking to do a Coyote swap into an early model Mustang. You have to remember you still have the other engine operating systems that you're going to have to terminate, like cooling, fuel, and exhaust. We're going to touch on those here shortly, but as for right now, I'm going to work on getting that gasoline-powered air compressor off into our Mustang. And this has been a long time coming. Something else that you can run into, which is pretty common with an engine swap, is oil pan clearance. So while we're solving our issue, we're going to do an upgrade. This one is considerably shorter than that stock unit, which gains us some ground clearance. Also, here on the inside are 4 trap doors. That helps to minimize oil starvation of your pickup tube. That's something that you definitely don't want. And as far as the install on this thing, it's pretty much straightforward. Of course, you got to drain the fluids and snatch out those bolts before you can remove that stock pan. The new pickup tube we're using matches our new oil pan, so no measuring is required. Make sure you get all the bolts started before you cinch them down. I prefer to run them up with a wrench, then torque them to spec. These are aftermarket mounts that accommodate our Coyote. It's just more parts that came along in our suspension kit, so there's no cutting or fabbing required. A whole lot of motor. Easy, easy here. We don't want to bounce this thing off the cross member. Well, it's finally in there, and I have to say that went a whole lot smoother than I was anticipating. We still got quite a bit to do. The next thing we're going to jump on is going to be the transmission, and I bet you we need to get started on those headers relatively quickly as well. I bet the proud new owner of this EBC Mustang is going to like the look under the hood just as much as I do. Gear snatching is in our future, and we'll spell performance with 3 letters, TKX. Well, we got our engine in, and it's off to the transmission. Whenever we picked up our Mustang, it had an automatic in it, but with the direction that we're going, that's just not going to cut it. For the fun factor, we're going with a stick. Because you know there's just something about that third pedal and running through the gears that just seems to put a smile on your face. And that's what these old rides are all about. Along with this conversion, other than a good time, well, we're looking for some benefits like overdrive. So we're using a TKX from Tremec. We picked this, all the goodies up for the conversion from American Powertrain. But the first order of business of getting this goodie installed is pounding in this pilot bearing. This isn't too big of a deal, just a whack or two. And we're done. Next is the mid plate, followed by the flywheel. Once we have it in place, it's time to bolt it up with some ARP hardware. They have a unique 12-point head design and a slightly larger shank to help with alignment. Plus, being chrome moly, they're much stronger than stock. So with us making way more than stock power, this is a no-brainer of an upgrade. With that torque down, the clutch and pressure plate can be installed using a few nuts from ARP. Now it's time to bolt into our bell housing, and then we can move on to the transmission. I just finished setting the clearance on our hydraulic kit that we got from American Powertrain. So that means our new TKX can go into place. This new transmission has a lot of benefits to it. One of those would have to be the much smaller case. How that's beneficial is if you're looking to do a conversion in an old school ride, normally you gotta whittle on the transmission hump. This smaller case gives you added clearance and can reduce that fab work. Also, it has a 26 spline input, a 31 spline output. It's available in several different gear ratios depending on your application or your needs. Plus, it's capable of 7,500 RPM shifts. That's a big deal. I need to go grab a transmission jack because that's that old man wisdom kicking in. These things are a bit heavy and I just don't want to wrestle it. Before we get too carried away, we're going to slide in the hose and our hydraulic release bearing. This simply slips onto the input shaft housing and takes a little bit of wiggling to hit that sweet spot. With the transmission married to the bell, we can cinch it down with the hardware. Now we're ready to move on and mount our cross member. I'm going to leave our mount here a little loose. I've got a little bit of some adjustment. Now with our cross member, what's really nice about it is it goes in using the factory locations. Also, it's got a notch here on both sides to help accommodate running exhaust. This is just one of the many parts that American Powertrain offers. These guys are all about standard shift conversions. So if you have an automatic or an old school stick and you're looking to upgrade to a 5 or 6 speed manual, you may want to check them out. We have a few more connections that need to be made to finish our installation. We have some connections in the electrical department that we're going to be doing, kind of like a reverse switch here on the side so that our backup lights work, plus our neutral safety here on the side of the tail housing. The way this one works is the shifter selector has to be in neutral for the engine to start. Also, to wire this thing up, you want to do that through a relay. Don't try running the trigger wire from the starter solenoid through here because you'll end up smoking that sensor. Also, this transmission has 2 different options for the speedo. You either have electronic here on the right or mechanical here on the left. After we get all that taken care of, we can let the car down and get on the inside. We have the hydraulics we need to take care of, plus we need to add this third pedal. And I tell you guys, I can't wait to be powering in the second gear. Up next, we pump up our jam with an accessory drive. Well, we're about waist deep in our Coyote conversion. We're installing into our 70 Mustang that we're going to be giving away to one of you guys with EBC Brakes. If you're looking to do this late model swap, one snag that you're probably going to hit is a power steering pump. That's because those engines don't have one mounted off to the side, because the vehicles that they came in had electric assist, not hydraulic assist. So you're more than likely going to be in a market for a belt drive like this one that we picked up from Power by the Hour. Our kit includes many parts like the pump, pulley, idler, tensioners, hardware, and brackets. If you're working on a Coyote, these guys have many solutions for a multitude of combinations. First step is going to involve slinging quite a few slivers of aluminum into the floor. We're doing this so that we can make clearance for an accessory that is going to be positioned in an unorthodox manner. Well, we got our clearance modifications taken care of, and you know, this is something that oftentimes scares people because of the grinding on the engine block. But whenever you're doing a modification like we are, it's kind of par for the course. Just make sure to double check your instructions, because you really can't back up from here without replacing some big parts. With this kit, there's going to be several brackets and pieces of hardware to install. These have a specific location with a machine fit. With an accessory drive, it's got to be accurate and precise. So make sure to pay attention to each piece. You know, oftentimes anti-seize and thread locker is suggested whenever you're doing something like this. Now, our bolt is a mild steel bolt, and you're installing it in an aluminum hole. That anti-seize can be your friend. If you're working with stainless, trust me, you want to use some of that stuff. We're ready to start bolting up our alternator, and if you're going to order one of these kits, they're going to ask you, do you have a standard or clutch style alternator? And what that refers to is this pulley here on the front of the unit. Now, if I take my screwdriver here and kind of block that fan on the inside, you'll notice that this pulley allows it to turn backwards without turning the internal parts of the alternator. What that's designed to do is to give the belt a longer life and help to stabilize it. But in our application, we're doing something a bit different. We're actually going to mount this thing backwards. If we left it alone like that, well, the alternator won't even work really properly because it's going to free spin. I know this may look a little bit weird, but we're working in some confined spaces. The alternator itself doesn't mind where it goes as long as it's spun by the belt. We're finally to the solution when it comes to mounting a power steering pump, and it's in the form of this small bracket. Where it attaches is the stock location of the alternator as it would have been built coming from the factory. We just need a couple of pieces of hardware, and then we can bolt up this pump. With the two married together, it simply slides into place. All it takes is a couple of pieces of hardware, and you just gotta snug it up. After that, it takes a few minutes to route the belt through each pulley. Then we can pull back on the tensioner and call it done. That's it. We got our belt drive assembly installed on the front side of our Coyote. This thing's impressive, and there's a bunch going on. And we're also one step closer to riding in that driver's seat. Next, this EBC beast needs to breathe. Plus, it's time for tap school. Well, I just finished cinching down the passenger side header. And you know, there's a lot of options out there when it comes to exhaust. For those of you who are using a previously used power plant, if you got something out of a Mustang, it may work in one of these late model conversions. However, if you've got something out of a pickup truck, you might as well throw that stuff off to the side. What we decided to use was a set of Detroit Speed headers that we picked up from Summit Racing. They're made from stainless steel, they're nice and compact, they have an O2 sensor bung already installed and a V-band clamp here on the collector. We went this route because it's a direct fit. There's no cutting or fab work required. They basically bolt into place. But before I get too carried away on this driver's side, I'm going to finish up on the passenger and go ahead and bolt up our Duralast starter. This Duralast starter is a perfect fit for our application. Designed to deliver the torque output that meets or exceeds the original starter. Triple tested with a limited lifetime warranty, all Duralast wear components are 100% new. But I have a few more electrical connections that I need to take care of on that starter, but before I jump into all that wiring, I'm going to finish up the exhaust. Well, we got our headers bolted into place, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is fashioning up a bracket that I'm going to use on our Coyote conversion. And this is just about anything that comes along with hot rodding, you know, because you're trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole. And with that, I'm going to end up probably having to do some drilling and tapping. There's a few tips and tricks to doing this properly that can make things go a whole lot smoother. A drill and tap chart can be your friend. It gives you the exact drill size that you need for the hole that you're trying to tap. We're going to be doing a 3/8/16, so we need a 5/16 bit. Drilling a precise hole is extremely important, and that's easy to do with Matco's Hyperstep drill bit set. This Matco exclusive tip design cuts 45% faster and stays sharp 4 times longer. These cobalt drill bits act like a step drill, spreading the job of cutting across multiple levels, keeping the drill bit cool with no need for a pilot hole. Once you're ready to start tapping, well, one thing that you need to keep in mind is you're going to need some lube, some thread cutting oil. That goes a long way here on the tap itself because that helps so that the cutter, well, makes threads a whole lot smoother. Also, you want to position the tap perpendicular to the surface. If you lean it off to kind of one side, as you could imagine, it's going to cut diagonally or crooked. Once you have it positioned where you want it, put a little bit of down pressure on it and then rotate the T clockwise. Another tip for you, about every half turn of rotation of your tap, back it up a quarter turn and you'll break off the little chip inside of there. That helps to relieve the pressure on the tap and helps to prevent from breaking it. Got one hole done, 2 more to do. Overall today, it's been a great day. We've got the bracket made, headers are on, trannies in, but most of all, that supercharged Coyote is sitting in the hole. We still got some work to do like wiring, cooling, and so on, but I guess it's time for me to head to the house and I'm gonna go celebrate a bit.
Today on Detroit Muscle, our 70 Mustang takes another step closer to the finish line. We fab up a custom exhaust, the interior goes in, plus tech on rear diffs.
Hey guys, welcome to Detroit Muscle. Today we've got some pretty big plans. We're continuing on our EBC Brakes supercharged 70 Mustang that we're going to be giving away to one of you all. Now, you know, with those Resto Mods, it's all about the conveniences, and we're going to add some of those up there in the interior. But before we get into all that, it's time to set the tone on that Coyote. You guys may remember this cat. He came in and helped us out with that front suspension install on our Mustang. He's got a welding skill set that is above and beyond. Josh, man, I'm glad that you accepted the challenge.
Absolutely. Now that Tommy's got the headers on the car, I can take it over by bringing the exhaust from the headers to the back of the car. Now we're going to be TIG welding this exhaust, and it may be a mystery to some, but I'm here to demystify it in 3 different ways. First, we'll break down the machine setup and tungsten prep. Next, we'll talk about material and filler rod. Then we'll break down in detail the process of back purging. All right guys, before we can start the process, we gotta set up the machine. With the machine off, we're gonna go ahead and select DC negative. Now that we got DC negative, we can power on the machine. I'm gonna leave the AC balance at around 60% range. Our pulse feature will remain off, and our post-flow gas will remain at 15. But as far as our amperage, a good general rule of thumb is 1,000th per 1 amp. Now, since the material we're working with is around 60 thousandths, we're gonna start at 60 amps. But that may vary depending on how fast or slow I am during the welding process. Now that our machine's set, we can go ahead and turn on the gas. After we get the gas turned on, we gotta go ahead and set our flow rate at the torch, which I can blip the throttle of the torch, activating it, showing our gas flow at the torch, which is now 20. That's an ideal CFM for this application. Next, we gotta prep our tungsten. The material I'm gonna be burning up calls for a red color-coded 1/16 size tungsten. Now, we gotta sharpen this tungsten. Since our material is so thin, I gotta sharpen the tungsten at a 15-degree angle, because the sharper it is, the wider the weld bead will be, as well as I'm not gonna be putting too much penetration to our thin material, which will eliminate blowouts. Now that we sharpened our tungsten, those of you may be wondering, how far does the tungsten need to protrude out of the torch? Now, a good general rule of thumb, the inside diameter of the torch also will be the same distance that the tungsten needs to stick out. Now guys, it's real important to know the material you're working with. Those of you at home may be thinking that this is mild steel. It's actually stainless. There are several different types of stainless, but also there are several different types of filler rod, even though they look the same. So it's real important to know the material you're working with so you can select the right filler rod to get the job done properly. All right guys, now that we're on part 3 of welding stainless steel, we're gonna demystify a process called back purging. Back purging is where you remove all the oxygen or air out of our tube, and we flood it with a separate bottle here that is filled with argon. Argon displaces oxygen from the tube. Now, if we have oxygen inside of our tubes as we're welding, it does this. Here's 2 examples. Can't really tell which one is the bad one, but when we flip these over, here's where the problem lies. As you can see, big difference. This is all gray, oxidized, and contaminated. That's what we call sugaring. This is what we want to achieve. We want to see nice and shiny, uncontaminated weld. But this is on a small level, but any level of sugaring is bad. So to eliminate that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to mask off one end of our tube here, and I'm gonna get it nice and sealed to where it's somewhat airtight. I'm also gonna poke a couple of holes in this end. That side set up. Then I'm gonna take our gas line here, stick her into this end, get this all nice and sealed. Now, we're not trying to create a 100% airtight seal, but we want to get some good positive pressure by the argon gas flowing in so that it removes all of that oxygen. Now we're pretty much ready to go. All I really got to do, turn the bottle on, regulate our pressure to around 10 to 7 CFM. Give it a couple of minutes to flood that oxygen out, because like you saw before, where I poked the holes in this end, that oxygen is going to come out here. Once it's flooded, we're good to go to make a successful weld. Coming up on Detroit Muscle, we finish our custom fabricated exhaust, then the interior.
Hey guys, welcome back. Well, we've got our exhaust pipe made all the way back here to the muffler. Now we're in a bit of a discussion, if you will, how to get the tailpipe all the way to the back of the car.
Now to accomplish that, we could go up and over the axle or under the axle. I got a test piece here to see if we can actually make it from the muffler and get our tubing above the axle.
Now neither one of these are right or wrong. It's just kind of seeing in which way we can go.
As you can see, we got our 3-inch tube up here just to give us an idea where we can route this big old thing. But with the suspension at full droop, we have a lot of room. But when it comes to being at ride height or at full compression, we're gonna run out of that room real quick.
You also don't want to run the exhaust around anything that's temperature sensitive, like the fuel tank or the brake lines. I'm thinking from where we're at, you just need to run the exhaust below the rear axle. But the complicated thing of doing it this way is it has to look like something. It doesn't need to look like you're dragging something out under the car.
No, definitely not. It looks like we actually have the ground clearance, but you know what? By putting these pipes going out the back the way we're doing it, that's gonna be some West Coast blast pipe style.
Bruh.
Just whoop. Building this custom exhaust, guys, isn't really a tube that's just all one tube. There's multiple pieces to the puzzle, as you can see, that I'm mocking up right here. Test fitting, making sure they're not getting in the way of everything or they're gonna be heating up anything. So once everything is fit, I can do the final tack welds and do a full weld to complete our task.
You know, with what we're doing here, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle and a whole lot of obstacles that we have to work around. More so, we really want this thing to look like we know what we're doing, because the way these pipes are going to be exposed from the back side of the car, well, the looks is important to us. And I have to say, I think we're pretty close.
Close, but no cigar, Tommy. I think we got to get this exhaust lined up with the body line here. It's pretty flat. Now to make that fix, I'm gonna have to put a cut somewhere around right here, clock it a little bit, and we should be good to go.
Where we're gonna make our cut is right here, and it can be made technically either here, anywhere to about here in this straight section of the pipe. If you were to get into the curve, when you rotate it, this and this will clock up or clock down, and all we're looking to do is clock this side of the pipe up.
Now that we got our pipe marked, we're gonna go ahead and see if we can put a mark all the way around the pipe that I can follow with the bandsaw. There's a couple of different advanced tools that can make that mark, but we're gonna go ahead and use some simple masking tape. Now this is just like 3rd grade, where the teacher told you to follow the lines. Now we have the line on the tube that we can line up with the masking tape so that I have a good visual straight line here that I can follow from front to back when I run the tube through the bandsaw. As you can see, it's simple, but it works.
We got to come down with that then.
I like it where it's at. Now that it's tacked, we can burn it up on the welding table, but before I can start welding, we'll have to purge all the oxygen out of the tube like we did earlier. Here's a TIG tip. Always make sure your arms are in a comfortable position and you can see clearly. It doesn't hurt to move the part where you want it to be comfortable.
But we got our passenger side exhaust all fabbed up, and I can't wait to hear that supercharged Coyote sing through that Flowmaster exhaust. You guys, don't run off.
Coming up next, we give our giveaway Mustang a fresh new interior.
Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're steadily checking off the things on our to-do list with our EBC Mustang that we're going to be giving away to one of you all. The next task at hand is the interior. With our Mustang, we want this thing to have performance throughout, and that includes the upholstery. Now, we also want it to be comfortable to ride in, and there's a few things that you can do that'll go a long ways. Kind of like adding a tilt column, like that one that we picked up from Summit Racing. Now, we also have a couple of obstacles that we're going to have to work through. We've got a big chrome shifter sticking through the hump from going from an automatic to a manual, and we've widened those rear wheel tubs, but we'll get to all that as we go along. For our interior renovation, we went to TMI for a full interior setup, including front and rear seats, console, and door panels and carpet. Now this is going to elevate our Resto Mod quite considerably. First part of this install is starting with the foundation. Before we get too carried away with installing our carpet, we're going to lay down some boom mat from DEI. This helps to reduce unwanted temperature and noise from the road, engine, and so on. To install it, it's super easy. You just peel it back, stick it on the surface. Now we've already laid it down in a couple of spots. We've got a couple more, and then we can glue in our interior. To trim these down to size, a basic utility knife does the trick. When applying the material, you want the surface to be clean, and I did all that before I started. Our floor is definitely not a flat surface, so at first I massage it into place by hand and then follow it up with a roller to conform it into all the nooks and crannies. Now with our carpet setup, it's a bit different than the normal fuzzy stuff that just goes into the floor. With ours, it's far more of a custom fit. It's kind of tailored to the car. It comes in several pieces and it has to be bonded to the floor. We're going to be using some Landau top glue. Once I get it all mixed up, we can pour it in the gun and we're ready to move on. You want to spray the adhesive on both the floor and the carpet. After it's dry to touch, you're good to go. We're going to start with the tunnel and then move to the sides. Making sure to press each piece down, and you want to pay close attention to all the lines. That turned out pretty nice. Now I mentioned earlier those rear wheel tubs was going to give us a bit of a fit. Well, this was my solution. This interior panel kind of interfered with it, so I notched this thing out as a relief cut. Now what's going to be exposed on that wheel tub, I'm going to cover with some material. It's that simple. Now it did take a little whittling on this panel to get it to look that good, but it almost looks factory. Now the meat and potatoes of the interior has to be the front seats, and it's easy to see with comparison to that old stock unit the benefits of the TMI interior. Not only have they knocked it out of the park when it comes to style and design, because it's brought our car from yesterday into modern times. If you'll notice, that stock seat is rather flat. Our new one has the bolstered sides on it that not only help to keep you on your side of the vehicle whenever you're kind of carving out some corners, and the support of the foam helps to keep you comfortable on those long rides. Plus, it's a bolt-in swap. guys know it's hard to find good help when we have to bring this old boy in. But there again, he does get the job done. Compared to what we started with, this interior has made quite the transformation. Now with its updated style and aggressive good looks, our new interior complements all of our hard work. Man, I can't wait to be sitting behind the wheel with some seat time out on the highway.
Looks good, Tommy, but we're not finished just yet, and some of us are guilty of this. We can spend countless hours, if not years, on our project and forget weather stripping. Thankfully, the guys at Steel Rubber Products have all types of components to protect your interior from the outside elements, eliminate road noise, and most importantly, ensure your windows and doors stay sealed. And for you one-off custom guys, Steel Rubber Products offers components that are universal to your custom build.
You know, today's been a pretty good day. We've checked off a few more of the boxes of building our Mustang that we're going to be giving away to one of you guys. You can go to PowerNationTV.com and enter to win our EBC Mustang. You can also check out our project pages. There you'll find current build status, before and after pics, parts used on all of our projects. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, I'm leaving the building. My rear end's tired. Today on Detroit Muscle, we put the finishing touches on our EBC Mustang and look back at all the blood, sweat, and tears it took to get us here. Plus, we'll take a trip through time to show you how the Mustang has evolved from pony to powerhouse. And then later, we'll unveil our mean machine at SEMA in Las Vegas. Hey guys, welcome to Detroit Muscle. This is our 70 Mustang that we've been working on. It's been kind of a labor of love. It's got all the goods, plenty of power under the hood, suspension that's gonna make it a tyrant out on the street, and she's a looker.
If you guys have been following along, obviously our fastback has come a long way with all the wrenches we've been turning on it. If it caught your eye before, we can guarantee it, you're really gonna like her now.
Well, first thing you do is you assess the paint and understand what the paint is and how soft it is, how hard it is, how many scratches, are they deep scratches, are they swirls, so on and so forth. Then you assess what products to use, what pads to use. In our case, we brought the arsenal not having seen the car before, seen pictures obviously, so we knew that we had some work to do. We went ahead and we went with Ultimate Cut and Perfect Finish with a wool pad, a hybrid wool pad, and we'll finish it out with a medium polishing pad. When you're cutting a car, basically what you're doing is you're removing a very, very thin layer of clear coat that has been scratched, or that there's small swirls from automatic car washes or whatever. So that's the cutting stage, where you're cutting off a very, very thin layer of clear coat to remove those scratches that are in that clear coat. And then buffing it, you're basically going to bring back that layer, a fresh layer of clear coat, and polish it out so it really provides a lot of gloss. One of the challenges a lot of times is not knowing what, if you don't know the history of the car and you don't know how much clear is remaining, and sometimes you may err on caution to maybe not, there are products out there where you can gauge the thickness of the paint or the thickness of the clear coat. So yeah, a lot of times it may be okay because there's just not that much clear left on the paint. Yeah, the hardest part is definitely the hood for a couple different reasons. A lot of activity usually goes on the flat areas, but also that's kind of the money shot. That's the part where people always come up and they look and they'll feel it. And so anything that's flat, those are the most difficult parts all the time. Sonax is a 71-year-old company, family-owned business, and distributed in over 100 countries around the world. We've been here in the United States for a little over 10 years and have really started to grow the business here in the U.S. I'm always amazed with the Sonax products, especially in the cutting stage, because traditionally, most products, when you cut, it'll leave a nice haze where you can actually see that layer that you've cut off, kind of like a wood when you've sanded it and you see that rough part. So that's kind of the same way that traditionally it used to be. the way that our cutting or our compound product finishes out is absolutely amazing to me. And every time I do the cutting stage, or I see the cutting stage done in that first wipe, when you actually see how it glosses out for a cut, it's truly amazing. It truly is an art, and the ability to take paint that has defects, obviously, and bring out the shine and bring out the gloss without doing damage to the paint, it truly is an art.
The transformation that our reflection has made is substantial, and those Sonax guys sure did make it look really easy.
They really did, but we couldn't stop there. We needed to give our car a little bit more style. So we hit up the guys at Wrapped Up to add some lines on our fastback to really make this thing look like it's doing 100 miles an hour standing still.
We start with a rendering, just a visual representation of what the customer wants, and then we turn it into a reality. Well, it really all kind of revolves around surface preparation, getting the car clean, getting all the emblems off, taking it apart, you know, getting it prepped. Once you have it prepped properly, everything from there kind of goes pretty easy. You just stick in the middle, work up, work down, and make sure you heat it when you get done. The biggest challenges with these cars is definitely the corners, the deep recesses, making sure you get every inch of the film post-heated to 180 degrees so that it stays looking good for a long time. Most 3M materials guaranteed a clean removal for about 3 years. After that, you might have a little glue residue up to 5 to 7 years. You definitely want to look for cracking in it. If you ever see any cracking, go ahead and remove it so that it doesn't damage the paint underneath. You should never wrap black plastic on vehicles. The trim plastic, it's silicone based, so it doesn't stick very well. The biggest no-no that you could do on a car is cutting on it. You always want to use knifeless tape, you know, to make sure that you're not destroying a customer's car, you're making it better for them. I like the freedom of it. My creativity gets to come out a little bit. It's an art form to me, and it's part of taking something that looks either okay or crappy and turning it into something beautiful. And I get to play with stickers all day, every day, you know.
This thing's a lot more than just some shiny paint and fancy stickers.
With our supercharged Coyote, whoever wins this car, they can daily drive it or even take it to the track.
Coming up, we take a look back at everything that took this car from conception to completion.
Hey guys, welcome back. This old Mustang has come a long way over the past couple of months.
And the road to our success has taken some work to get us here. The canvas that we're starting with is definitely a presentable piece. It's got the classic styling, the iconic look, and the good old small block rumble. But for the car that we're planning to build, a lot of this stuff has to go.
Go ahead.
The first thing we're getting out of the way is the power plant.
Keep going. All right, forward.
That old small block Ford wasn't by any means a bad engine, but it definitely didn't have the power output that we're craving. This was only the beginning of the removal process for our performance transformation. Next on the chopping block was the suspension. After a lot of beating, banging, bolt pulling, and wrangling, snatching and prying, it was time to move to the backside. This old school technology of leaf springs rides pretty sweet. But for the performance enhancements we're making, these will just become some inventory that we can exchange for some beer money.
Yes, sir.
Come on up with it. That's not nearly as heavy as I thought it was gonna be. If you're slinging sparks, that means you're in for some serious modifications. And that's exactly what we're doing. This rear suspension kit is only a single ingredient of the recipe for one sweet Mustang. A couple of these may take a little wrestling to get them in there, but nothing a tool of persuasion can't handle.
Get in there, you turkey.
Sometimes when you get to digging in on a car of this age, you'll find some flaws.
Man, that's a lot of rust.
But when you've got skilled hands like Josh, it's just another day at the office. By the looks of these goodies stretched out in the floor, well, it's easy to see that our EBC Mustang is going to be one heck of a ride. Sure, there's a lot of work going into this car, but it always is. No matter if you're doing a restoration or a rejuvenation. These EBC brakes are hot off the press. They're the first setup of its kind for this application. We've used EBC on several projects, and we're always impressed with their performance.
Now with the handling and the braking taken care of, next we needed to drop in the power plant. Now with a car of this caliber, the choice was easy, a supercharged Coyote.
A whole lot of motor. If you're into Mustangs and late model performance, you'd sure enough be proud to have this thing sitting under your hood.
Now I'm just gonna be honest guys, it would be a sin to put an automatic in a car like this, so we went ahead and put the good old 5-speed banger in it.
American Powertrain had everything that was needed to make our dreams come true for converting from that old slush box to a standard trans.
We got the big power, we got the stopping power, and we got the maneuverability with all the handling upgrades. But all of that is pointless unless we can put it down to the ground.
Continental Tire had exactly what we were looking for with their extreme contact sports. We're running two 45-35 R18s on the front and a 295-35 ZR18s on the rear. Wheels can make or break the style and attitude of your build. These American racing wheels in an 18x11 definitely complement the timeless style of our American muscle. Old school muscle has style and a silhouette that's unmistakable. We wanted to complement that with some aggressive yet tasteful interior. TMI provided us with some top-notch interior styling to make sure the inside was just as impressive as the outside. Sometimes people think of upgrades as just something mechanical, but we wanted to include trick stitching, bolstered seats, and a new look from head to toe for our Mustang to be complete.
Now after countless busted knuckles and some late nights, she's ready to go.
Up next, we'll travel back in time to give you a history lesson about the best-selling muscle car of all time. Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. You know, Mustangs have been popular from the beginning. Performance and these kind of go hand in hand.
And if you're a fan of these rides, you're really going to enjoy this bit of history.
Mustang, the original. Mustang, 3 new ways to answer the call of Mustang.
If you're wanting to discuss Detroit muscle, Mustangs are definitely a subject matter that will be mentioned. And several of them have their place in the history books. Some are for the better, and others not so much. The little pony got bigger and badder as the 60s came to a close. Trans Am Racing spawned the Boss 302 and the Boss 429. It was so big, they had to modify the suspension. The Mustang muscled its way into the 70s, but gradually the oil crisis and the EPA regulations took their toll on performance. In '74, it was stripped down to an economy gas sipper called the Mustang II, and sport versions had more bark than bite. 5 years later, the Mustang was resurrected with a fresh look on Ford's new Fox body, ushering in a new era of performance. The GT package returned in '82, and the '83 models got a 5-liter engine with 175 horses, the most since the '71 Boss 351. For the 4th generation, Ford brought back the classic styling cues of the original, like side scoops, 3-element taillights, and the signature long hood and short deck. When the pony car turned 40, it was time for another revamp. This time, Ford really went retro, bringing all the elements of the original design into the 21st century. It was an instant hit with the public, reigniting muscle car fever and spurring Chevy and Dodge to play catch-up. Not to be outdone, Ford unleashed a bold new version for 2010, one that added a more aggressive stance to that iconic style. For almost a half a century, the Mustang has proven that it's one wild horse that won't be broken. I'm a big fan of the '69 and '70s, and maybe one day I'll have one of my own.
Moneybags over here. I'm surprised it doesn't have 3.
Coming up, we load up our EBC Mustang and haul it out for one of the largest automotive events on the planet. Here at PowerNation, we've had 2 big builds going on at the same time. Both of them have supercharged Coyote power and modern conveniences, all in an old school package. After getting these rides loaded up in their fancy covered wagon, they'll set off for their long journey, chasing the sunset out west. Hey guys, welcome back to Detroit Muscle. We've been thrashing on that Mustang to bring it to one of the largest events in the automotive industry, and that would be the SEMA show. But James has been quite the journey building this car to get it here under the lights at SEMA. Man, it's a pure honor. Now, I know you haven't really seen it until now. What do you think?
Well, seeing it in the metal, Tommy, I absolutely love it. It's zinging under the bright lights, it's shiny, everyone's looking at it, everyone's talking about it, everyone's scanning that barcode to try and win it.
Yeah, well, let me take you on a little road trip of what we've done.
Brilliant, let's go.
So what we started with is a 1970 fastback Mustang. Polished its reflection to a brilliant shine using some Sonax polish, then added a graphics package to complement its performance and style. Here on the interior, man, we really gave this thing the goods. It has a full TMI interior, the traditional wood grain steering wheel, and it has to have that manual gearbox in the floor.
And of course, a coffee cup holder for a coffee on your way to the cruise.
Under here is where all the magic happens. We've got a supercharged Coyote making, well, plenty of power. And those massive EBC brakes.
Well, we're excited to be launching these 6 spots, Tommy, for many applications.
Well, James, it's been a sheer honor building this car. I'm proud to stand behind it, and I'm sure somebody's going to be proud to have it in their driveway.
100%, I'd be proud, but unfortunately it's got to go to someone else.
Well, we've got our Mustang back in the shop, and it sure has came a long way. Now, we've transformed this pony from kind of an old nag to a show-stealing, ground-pounding stallion. We've put a lot of time and effort into this car, and the last thing we want to do is leave it unprotected. If you're in the need for top-of-the-line preservation, Covercraft's form-fit car cover will pamper your ride's chrome and paint for maximum indoor protection. Covercraft's exclusive high-performance fabric will help protect your vehicle from minor dents and dings, as well as micro-scratch causing dust and debris. Covers come custom fit for your vehicle, and they're engineered to prevent heat and vapor from becoming trapped underneath the material, so your finish stays showroom fine year round. Heck, you can even throw it in your washer and dryer to keep it as clean as your car. Covercraft's custom form fit cover comes with a 4-year warranty, but if you take care of it as good as it takes care of your car, it should last well beyond that. Comes with a free matching storage bag and is manufactured and sewn together here in the good old US of A. Visit Covercraft to see which one works best for you. Now, if you guys will excuse me, I'm going to go take some well-deserved R&R, because after this thrash on this SEMA build and that quick trip to Vegas, I'm definitely wore slap out. We'll see you guys in a few. I sure hope you like what you saw on today's show, and until next time, y'all remember, keep it between the ditches.